There's a fight brewing in Philadelphia, and it doesn't involve Rocky Balboa. The prize, ownership of two Philadelphia newspapers, the Inquirer and the Daily News. For more on the latest battle, we are joined right now by Brian Tierney. He is the CEO of Philadelphia Media Holdings. Tierney led a local group of investors that bought the papers in 2006 before declaring bankruptcy last February. Brian, thanks so much for the time this morning. Nobody can really say that owning a newspaper is a great business these days. Why the fight for these two?
Well, you know what? I sometimes wonder about that myself because, you know, we have a company, we've spent about $30 million in a bankruptcy process, and a company that's the stalking horse bid is $67 million. Most people think that's close. Could be a couple bucks more, could be a couple bucks less. But for us, what's important for me, I grew up in Philadelphia. My businesses were in Philadelphia. I have a commitment to my 4,500 employees, so I'm not just going to turn it over to hedge funds that want to strip it and flip it, which is happening in other cities in America. So I wouldn't do this if I was a hired gun living in Philadelphia, but I was really from Chicago. I'm only doing it because I live here, and this is the town that I grew up in.
Brian, I want to ask you a question. Some people say it really is, at the end of the day, all about the money. How much are you getting paid now by Philadelphia Media Holdings, and how much would you stand to get paid under the stalking horse bid?
Under the stalking horse bid, I would get zero. And in fact, I'm really encouraging other bidders, and I've met with over half a dozen bidders, potential bidders from California to Texas and points in between. I personally invested $10 million in the paper. That's gone. And I'm getting paid $600,000, which is less than I've made since 1989. So for me, this is not about the money. I will make a lot more money to go back into the advertising business.
Brian, I want to pick up on what you just said about advertising in just a moment. But, I mean, sentimentality can't line your pockets. I mean, as much as it's nice, it's your hometown. I just want to clarify, though, you are not involved in the second group of local bidders for the assets, right?
No. No. We encourage the stalking horse bidder to come forward. And that is David Haas, who is of the Roman Haas family, a very philanthropic investor, person in the community. He wasn't part of the original investor group. It also includes Bruce Toll and of Toll Brothers and the Carpenters Union Pension Fund.
Why have you personally stepped back?
I have a fiduciary duty towards the enterprise. And the old investor, our group, is gone. I happen to be the captain of this ship. I want to bring it into the port. I think sometimes my friends in New York sometimes don't understand that not everything's about short-term money. Sometimes there's higher principles involved, and that's what it's about here. So we've encouraged the stalking horse bidder to come forward. We were able to win both at the U.S. District Court as well as the U.S. Court of Appeals, a ruling that says that the banks have to bid cash as well. And I'm encouraging other bidders. Over 200 potential bidders have been contacted. About 40 have signed NDAs. Well over probably about 2 dozen have been in the data room.
Why are they in it, Brian? How hard did you have to convince this second group to come forward?
Again, 200 people contacted, strategic as well as private equity funds. What I want to find is an intentional owner, not hedge funds that are accidental owners. And I got to tell you, a major metro newspaper in a heavily unionized market, which has historically very hostile relationships, although we're very good right now under our ownership and management team. There's not a long line. I mean, when we went out there all over the country with our investment bankers at Sun and Shine, it wasn't as if we had to say, can everybody please form one line, and because you're crowding the counter here. I mean, there's not a lot of interest in a major metro newspaper. Frankly, it's a business that, you know, we bought it for $515 million. If you look even at the publicly traded numbers of companies, they've dropped 80, 90% over the last few years. Okay. We bought this at the wrong time.
All right, we're going back to Brian Tierney now. He is CEO of Philadelphia Media Holdings. Tierney led a local group of investors that bought the Inquirer and the Daily News in 2006 before declaring bankruptcy last February. Brian, we talked just now about Sam Zell's experience with Tribune Co. And how in a bankruptcy, and this seems to be the story in bankruptcies over and over and over again, it's only the lawyers who get wealthy. I want you to talk to us about what happened to your original investors, friends of yours, classmates, unions as well in Philadelphia that invested in Philadelphia Media Holdings. They've got nothing to show for it. How do you explain that to them?
Including me. I think it helps that of the $150 million in equity, $10 million was mine. You know, we stepped forward. Nobody thought it would be a Google-like return, but people thought it would be a decent business and very good for the community. We wanted these papers. You know, newspapers play an unprecedented role in a community. I mean, we drive the news, we do the investigations, all the rest of it, all the TV folks, local TV folks basically piggyback on that. So I think it was a group of folks who care a lot about the region, grew up here or moved here, were wealthy, and saw this as an opportunity to do something good for the community, which still drives what we're trying to do. I think what's interesting and something that's unprecedented in American history is now one hedge fund, Angelo Gordon, is attempting to control the news in 3 of the 4 largest markets in America. They're in control out at Sam Zell's operation, so it would be Chicago, Los Angeles, and Philadelphia. Now, even publicly traded companies, which have a great deal of scrutiny, have never tried to control the media in 3 of the 4 largest markets. And I think that's something that, as Americans, we need to be. I mean, these people, I'm told, don't even return reporters' phone calls. So, as Americans, I think this is something that will indeed, in this transparency era, get a lot of scrutiny, both from the media as well as from government. And I think it's a real problem. I mean, we stepped up, though, to do what we thought was. And again, now, I mean, it would have been easy to abandon ship last year when they wanted to put 10 times, practically 10 times EBITDA debt on the company. But it would have been horrible. And if my kids were in college, still in school, or if I was from another town, I may have done that or taken the package to just leave as well. But you can't do it when you grow up in a town and you're walking through those corridors every day and you're looking at your employees.
Yeah, Brian, I mean, it's hard to talk about the newspaper business without talking about ad sales. That's actually really your area of expertise.
Yeah.
But that's not having really a gangbusters moment either, and has not for the past 2 years. I mean, how does this fit in with your business plans?
Well, I mean, when you think about it, in our newspaper, when you look at the top 20 newspapers, we've gone from the bottom in terms of ad sales to the top quartile, number 2 in national ad sales, and we're off 25%. So, you know, I have my peers at some other large papers who say, gosh, you guys are doing so well. You know, I feel like the world's tallest midget. I mean, the issue is, and of course, in television, I don't know about Bloomberg, but my friends who run local television stations tell me they're off even more. But they don't have the cost structure. They don't have the $60 million in newsprint. They don't have the trucks, et cetera. So this is a very expensive fixed cost business.
We don't have a ton of time left. I just want to know if you think the iPad is going to change anything for the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Daily News, or what's happening right now in the region.
We're developing our own unique application for it. I think it'll be additive. I think it'll be helpful, but it won't be transformational. When you think of things like Politico.com does very well, a much smaller news staff, most of the revenue comes from a free 3-day-a-week printed newspaper.
All right.
That's where the money is, in the printed product.
Brian, we thank you for your time. Brian Tierney.
Thank you.
Wish you luck in your endeavors.